Before I started, I just wanted to say a couple of words of my research interest in lupus. And this has been to study the role of metabolism in the immune response. And by using a mouse model in the lab of obese mice, and these are mice that lack leptin signaling, and we have been inducing immunization in these mice, and we see a defective immune response to determinate antigens. So this also seems, we have evidence that this effect it has a direct effect on B cell response. So what I would like to hypothesize is that a chronic inflammatory condition may be as induced by obesity or metabolic syndrome. So an altered metabolism can regulate immune response. And so one would imagine that in lupus, if associated with a metabolic syndrome, this might play an important role in regulating the immune response in lupus. So understanding this crosstalk might give us some new ideas in potential therapeutic targets. But while I'm not going to be talking about that, I'm going to go on for cholesterol, which there's been some interesting new findings in the past few years. And because we cannot talk about cholesterol and forget that it's a main factor on cardiovascular disease, so I'm going to be giving some epidemiological data on cardiovascular disease burden in the general population and also lupus. So I have nothing to disclose. So in this first graph, it's a collective data for about 30 years of cardiovascular disease mortality in men and women. So here, men in the yellow line and women pink line. And it's very important to bring up here that there is a misperception that cardiovascular disease, the death from cardiovascular disease is not a major health threat for women. And as you can see here, it's quite the opposite. So for the past 25 years, women have surpassed the death from cardiovascular disease compared to men. And if you just look on 2006, more than half of all cardiovascular-related death occurred in women. And maybe this is from, this misperception comes from our understanding that the prevalence of cardiovascular disease is highest in men. And also, if you look at the other graph, so that's the incidence of myocardial infarctions, it's also more prevalent in men. Now, there is a gap there in which we call a lag. So women lag about 10 to 20 years to men in terms of incidence of cardiovascular disease or MIs. And so this coincides with the coming of menopause. And so there is some protective role for sex hormones during that stage for cardiovascular disease. But so maybe what this is telling us is that the incidence and the prevalence is lower, but as we know, and from a lot of epidemiological data, women fare worse than men once they have an MI, so they're more likely to die from it from a first event.